When you have the choice, will you respond civilly or savagely? Charles Darwin, the father of evolutionary theory and the man who coined the phrase survival of the fittest, stated, at some future period not very distant and measured by centuries, the civilized races of man will almost certainly exterminate and replace the savage races throughout the world. Now, I understand that these terms, savage and civilized, have meant many things coming from many mouths throughout the centuries. Centuries marked by incredible progress, debilitating war, by misuse, misunderstanding, political correctness, reinterpretation, and by acts labeled both civil and savage, depending on which side of the line the players and historians are standing on. Just pulling from today's headlines. There's ISIS in Iraq, there's the whole mess in Gaza. Okay, so here's how I define it. To be civilized is to have compassion and empathy for others other than yourself. A tribe that is not your own. And you can agree to disagree because what affects one affects all. To be savage is to be fierce, cruel, fueled by anger. It also means primitive and wild. Conjures all sorts of associations and baggage, doesn't it? But I believe that this kind of savagery evolves into civility. Every generation of children starts out as self-centered little savages. They need to. There's so much to fear in this fucking world, and they have to survive. But quickly, as they work to meet our basic needs, we see that somehow we're much safer and stronger when we work together, and that's the spark that launched civilization. We agreed to coexist, helping each other to survive. We pay taxes, obey laws, and in return, we get to use each other's resources. And take comfort in the knowing that as you approach an intersection with a green light, all the other cars are not going to run the red lights, keeping you safe. And for centuries now, we have made this tacit pact as human beings, whether living in the desert of Los Angeles or deep in the heart of Africa, to be civilized or be subject to the consequences. But here's the thing. It's been more than a century and Darwin's prediction has yet to come true. Far from it. Savagery still exists. I turn on the news today and I want to scream. I want to weep. I want to wail because I see savagery everywhere. I see fear everywhere, and fear grows formidable roots for savagery. On this past Saturday night, an unarmed 18-year-old African-American man, teenager from Ferguson, Missouri, was shot multiple times and killed by a cop after being involved in an altercation with the officer. The FBI response was civilized. They are opening an investigation to that altercation, citing it a potential civil rights violation. The local pastor's response was civilized. They pulled together a vigil yesterday morning, however, with law enforcement and riot gear looking on. The vigil sharply and divisively turned into a savage riot, leaving many injured, at least 12 businesses looted and vandalized, and 30 arrested, now facing charges of assault, battery, and theft. It happens so fast. Fear and anger are volatile emotions, and savagery is so fucking seductive. It is dark, it is primal, mysterious, other. It can feel so good, and there's this excitement that you cannot... Okay, look, can I tell you guys something? I am the frequency washing over you and taking with it all you can bear to give more. If you taste of my poison, you will know it to be the finest fruit. You will crave me always, tasting of dust and berries, repulsed by memories. I dance on your tongue and linger in your hair. Marked is your flesh with my signs, bleeding your body for my knife, a knife which cuts to close you up and lock you away, never exposing your decomposing marked flesh. A twisted blade I adore you with. My pleasure is brought by millions to your every breath. Without me, you choke on the foul emptiness I have made you know. Your innocence is now with me, and you may never hold it again. I lived with a savage. I drank his poison, and for 2 years I absolutely disappeared. I looked into the mirror and saw no one, so much so that my family was shocked to see me in their presence. It was as if I was in some fucking foreign country, one with landmines, where communication via technology could get you fucking locked up or tortured, and fear was the emotion, and fantasy the escape. Warmth and safety was 40 miles away and my car had gas. Anytime I could get in and drive away, but I didn't want to. I loved my prison, a prison filled with art and beauty, but peel away the paint and it was a fucking brutal nightmare. But if I can just keep painting, it won't show. But the weather's not nice, and wind, rain, sun all pick away at my work, forcing the constant awareness and paintbrush in my hand to work ceaselessly. To relax is to let my guard down and find half the nightmares surrounding me. I didn't do anything to him. I loved him. He wanted details and humiliation. I wanted to jump over the body on the floor and create a permanent Sistine Chapel under which we would lie and make love. He wanted to peel away the paint and demand to know my nightmare, not to heal the wounds and scars from the monsters that ripped and tore my flesh, but to prove I was a monster like them. But it was he who fed me to them, to sacrifice me to them for her. I know he must feel this guilt of his deeds, because if he can prove I was the monster, he can be the victim and walk with his head held high. And now as my head is thrashing against the floor and he is on top of me with a my neck that shows no sign of release. I have a choice. My part is mine, not his. You do not lay hands on another, ever. You do not lay hands on another with intentions of harm to release the demons in your own fucking head. I could love him, support him, but I could never chase those dark demons away. I was a warrior fighting a war which never existed, and my armor was shredded. But I had the strength of 10,000, and today I examine closed wounds and scarring that will never let me forget the man I tried to comfort, the man I invited into my bed, a man who would lie awake at night waiting to attack my skin, my heart, my world, myself. So easy, so warm, so... When you have the choice, will you respond civilly or savagely? I chose to be civil, I left. I stopped living in fear, and now I love my life. My honest, compassionate, civilized life. At some future period, not very distant as measured by centuries, the civilized races of man will almost certainly exterminate and replace the savage races throughout the world. We aren't there yet. We have to get there together. We have to each make a choice. I chose. Now you.